So today's topic is the Gauss law. So Gauss law is said to be the most powerful law in static electricity. Not just in static electricity, almost the entire electricity itself. It's almost like the most powerful law in the entire electricity itself because static electricity is the life of electricity. So current electricity. Next, based on current electricity is magnetism. Based on magnetism is the electromagnetism, electromagnetic induction. Next, alternating currents, electromagnetic waves. Everything is actually based on simple concept of electric charge and electric field, which actually come in the static electricity or electrostatics, the first part of electricity. So this is the most powerful law in the entire, not just static electricity, in the entire electricity itself. But this is not a fundamental law. It's actually derived directly from Coulomb's inverse square law. So though it's a derived law, it's actually very very powerful because many complicated problems in just one step or two steps they can be solved with the help of Gauss law. Really, Coulomb's inverse square law also can be used, but it becomes very complicated to use Coulomb's inverse square law in many situations. In such situations, Gauss law will be actually very helpful. So in just one step or one and a half steps, we'll be getting the solution of many complicated problems. So Gauss law. So this is very important from mainly understanding point of view and also from the board examination point of view. Also, it carries about say about 3 marks, roughly 3 marks. That means always it will be plus or minus one. So explanation is also asked along with one application like that or one simple example. It can carry even 4 marks. Only definition or statement of the Gauss law just it carries 2 marks. So that way it's around 3 marks. But still, because of the importance, I'm just mentioning it as 4 marks. Though mostly it will not be given for 4 marks. And from the problems point of entrance examination problems point of view, also it's very important. And above both of them, both the board and entrance examination, from the understanding point of view, it's the most powerful of very having wide applications in daily life. Many questions you will be getting while dealing with electric circuits. In such cases, Gauss law will be providing very simple answer to many complicated situations. So that's the importance of Gauss law. So Gauss gave this law the name itself, and Gauss is said to be the most powerful mathematician of all time. He is called as the greatest mathematician since antiquity. So he gave very powerful theorems in mathematics. He was actually a physicist and come mathematician. So deflection magnetometer was invented by Gauss. So very simple invention how to measure magnetic fields, etc. Similarly, many other inventions are actually associated with Gauss. And another very important thing is Gauss theorem of divergence. That's also a very important theorem. And another very important thing related to Gauss is the theory related to potential, the magnetic potential especially related to terrestrial magnetism. It's also general thing related to the concept of potential. All these things were actually huge mathematical, very deep mathematical concepts which were actually given by Gauss. So these are the various things related to Gauss. Now coming to the Gauss law. Now Gauss law is, though it is not a fundamental law, it's becoming the very powerful law in static electricity and also electricity. So it's actually derived law which is derived from the Coulomb's inverse square law. Now Coulomb's inverse square law, exactly speaking, it's applicable only for point charges. So to find out the force between point charges, but point charges are very difficult to locate in, that is see in nature. So usually whatever charge we have, it's a distribution of charge. So charge spread over some surface consists of many point charges. So in such cases, very difficult to apply. In such cases, especially certain very important cases, Gauss law will be actually very helpful to find out. Especially, it's mainly used to find out the electric field intensity. Now, what does the Gauss law state? So the first part is the statement of the Gauss law. So statement. The statement is of Gauss law is actually very simple. Now consider any charge So call the charge as, so any charge it can be taken. So for convenience, I'm just taking positive charge. So let it be called as Q. Now surrounding this charge, now consider any surface, some surface. The important thing is this surface should be a closed surface. Any closed surface, whatever be the shape of the surface, it doesn't matter. Any closed surface can be taken. Now the important thing is the surface is a closed surface. So it's denoted as yes. Now this is a positive charge which is actually present inside the closed surface. Now because it's present inside the closed surface, this is simply called as Q inside Qi, or simply Q inside. Full word I'm writing Q inside. So Q inside denotes the charge which is actually present, or the total charge which is present inside the closed surface. Now because it's a positive charge, the electric lines of force near the positive charge, already we have seen that they are diverging this way. They'll be moving away from the positive charge. They'll be directed away from the positive charge. Already we have seen this in the concept of electric field, or the concept of electric flux. Now, a large number of lines of force can be drawn surrounding, starting at the positive charge, and they'll be directed away, or they are said to be diverging from the positive charge. Already we know that if negative charge is considered, all the lines of force will be directed towards the negative charge. That means they are said to be converging at the negative charge. But for a positive charge, they'll be diverging away from the positive charge. Now, that considering any small area, say from here to here, we are considering a small area. Say here, I'm just showing with the cursor. Now, through this area, a certain number of lines of force will be passing. Actually, n number of lines of force are actually, strictly speaking, they are imaginary, but they are very, 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 very important in understanding the nature of the electric field. Though they are only theoretical, but they play a very, very important role. They make it very, very simple to understand the electric field. So that's the importance of the electric lines of force. Now, one very important concept defined in terms of lines of force is the electric flux. So how is electric flux defined? It is the total number of lines of force passing through any given area. This is the first basic definition of electric flux. Already we have seen this previously. So now through this area, so from here to here, I'm taking a small area. Through this area, whatever is the number of lines of force passing, that is defined as electric flux. This is a simple, very simple definition of electric flux. And there is a second definition of electric flux of that also we have seen. To measure the electric flux exactly in terms of the area considered, say from here to here, we are considering the area as a small area, say S1 or S2, any area. So what is the electric flux? How to measure this electric flux? It can be measured using the second definition of electric flux. Now this second definition of electric flux, very, very important thing is, it is also related to the second definition of electric field vector, or electric field intensity, capital E. Now whatever is the direction of electric line of force, supposing it's a straight line of force, in the same direction we have seen that electric field vector also will be present. So electric field vector I am drawing here, in the same direction it's present. So I'm just showing it the direction only for convenience here. So I'm just removing that so that actual diagram of the Gauss law will not be disturbed. So in this direction, electric field vector is actually present in the same direction as the line of force, especially if it's a straight line of force. Now the important thing is, Gauss law is actually simply gives a relation between the total charge inside a closed surface and the total electric flux passing or emerging out of the closed surface. Exactly speaking, emerging out of the closed surface, or it's also called as passing through the closed surface in short, but it's more clearly emerging out of the closed surface. Passing through the closed surface is not very accurate. Emerging out of the closed, passing through the closed surface is also okay, it's also not wrong, but emerging out of the closed surface is actually much more easier to understand. Now the difference between the two statements, passing to the closed surface and emerging out of the closed surface, can be understood a little later in the topic, in this topic itself. So that's the thing here. So now what does the Gauss law state? First the statement will see. Statement is very simple. Now the Gauss law simply states that the total flux through the closed surface, that means emerging out of the closed surface, simply it's denoted as, what is the regular symbol for electric flux through any surface? Its electric flux symbol is phi. Now since we are considering the total flux through the closed surface, it is simply known as phi total. Now Gauss law simply states that this total flux is directly proportional to the total charge present inside the closed surface. So Q inside. So what we are considering is, this is the total flux through the closed surface, yes. So this total flux through the closed surface, yes, is directly proportional to the total charge inside the located or present inside the closed surface. Now, how this relation can be understood? Now, this is just a simple common sense. No big derivation is required to understand this particular statement. Then what about the derivation of the Gauss law, which is actually said to be based on the Coulomb's inverse square law? Now that derivation is for something else. Now for understanding of this proportionality relation, it is very simple. Now this proportionality relation itself is called as it's actually the statement of the or regular simple statement of the Gauss law. So how it is proportional? It's very simple. Now we are taking a charge, say Q1. Q inside you call it as Q1. Say 10 coulombs of charge. So related to this 10 coulombs of charge, a certain amount of electric flux will be, or certain number of lines of force will be starting related to this 10 units of electric charge. Now supposing you have another 10 units of electric charge here, then what happens? So related to this 10 units of electric charge, let the electric flux be also be taken as 10 units, or we can take it as 20 units also, doesn't matter. For convenience, I am taking it as 10 units of electric flux. Now supposing you have another identical 10 coulombs of charge here, located again inside the closed surface, then related to this second 10 units of charge, again identical 10 units of electric flux will be emerging. So see here I am putting the another identical 10 units of charge. Then out of this 10 units of electric charge also, again 10 units of electric flux will be emerging out. Now where does this 10 units of electric flux goes? It will be as usual, it will be emerging out of this closed surface, because the closed surface is completely surrounding this second charge or second 10 units of charge. So the electric flux, whatever electric flux is given out by this 10 units of second 10 units of electric charge, that also will have to emerge out of this closed surface only. That becomes what? Total flux. Now first charge is giving out 10 units of flux, second charge is also giving out 10 units of flux, which is 20 units of flux. That means when charge is getting doubled, automatically electric flux emerging out of the closed surface is also getting doubled. So this is very simple to understand the statement. There is no complication at all. It's simple, regular, common sense, and very simple to understand. Now the important thing is, so whatever things we are seeing here are simple, nowhere any complication there. So the total electric flux through a, so this total electric flux which is emerging out of the closed surface is also roughly called as total flux through the closed surface. It is also called as total flux through the closed surface. Now that's the simple thing. There is not much difference need be considered here. Both can be taken to be roughly same for the present sake. So now left is proportional to right. Always very important thing in proportionality relations is just see here one simple thing. I'm just extending this page divider a little more. So now some very simple important thing. So I'm just showing this in the rough column. Now whenever two quantities are proportional, y is proportional to x. One quantity can be written as some constant times the other quantity. So this is a very simple thing related to proportionality relations. Left quantity is proportional to right quantity. Left quantity can be written constant times the right quantity. So here also the total flux here can be written as simply total flux can be written as some constant into Q inside. Now this proportionality constant from Coulomb's inverse square law, this proportionality constant is found to be simply 1 by epsilon naught. So 1 by epsilon naught into Q inside. Now that's the thing where Coulomb's inverse square law comes. Proportionality relation, there is no complication in the proportional relation. We can just easily guess from the diagram itself. Always diagram is not something which we are actually something strange. It's nothing but a real life situation itself. Whatever is happening in real life, we are not doing the experiment, because experiments related to electric charges, not just electric charges, many things are actually complicated. The apparatus, everything will be complicated. So just by drawing a simple line diagram, the entire experiment can be very easily performed on the paper itself. So from this very simple situation, or from this very simple diagram, we can get the Gauss law actual statement proof very easily. But now the important thing is, what is the proportionality relation? So here the proportionality relation, why it is 1 by epsilon naught, that is where Coulomb's inverse square law comes. If we really see the real derivation of the derivation using the Coulomb's inverse square law, then only we will be getting this proportionality constant. And derivation, though it's not there in the syllabus, it is not difficult, it's very simple, directly based on the second definition of electric flux. That second definition of electric flux anyhow we have to use here also. So just along with that, another one step is used, then complete derivation will be getting. That also is not difficult. So Now coming back to the point here, that what is the main part of the derivation which is actually not required in the syllabus, that also will be actually very simple. That also will be seeing somewhere in the importance of the Gauss law here itself, in this class itself. So now coming back here, so therefore the total electric flux through the closed surface, now it can be written as what? Q inside. So Q inside divided by epsilon naught. That's how it can be written. So that's the equation which we are getting finally. So I'll just write this and make it more clearer. I'm just moving it a little down so that the two equations don't get mixed up. Just here. So what we are getting is that total electric flux is equal to simply equal to Q inside. So this I'm trying to draw a box, a simple box I'm drawing, because this is the actual original state equation obtained from the Gauss law. This I'm putting in a box. So this can be called as equation 1. So very simple mathematical form of the Gauss law we are getting. The total electric flux through any closed surface is nothing but total charge inside the closed surface divided by epsilon naught. Divided by epsilon naught. So now consider this very small simple thing. So now the total electric flux is nothing but total number of lines of force from the first definition of the electric flux. Now I'm just making the diagram simple, a very simple original form only I'm taking. So just see here. So only one simple way we are showing the total charge inside is Q inside. It can look at anywhere, it doesn't matter. Already we have seen the reason for this in this simple equations itself. From the diagram itself we have seen in the proportionality relation. So now this total surface, you divide this into very small areas. So from here to here, consider a small area. So it's so small that it's almost equal to 0. It's tending to 0. So such a small area is called as simply elemental area. So now considering such a small elemental area, so this elemental area is denoted as ds. So S stands for the total surface area, total area of the closed surface. A small part of this area is denoted as elemental area. Through this small elemental area, only a small number of lines of force pass. But the number of lines of force passing through this small elemental area is what? Flux. So the small flux passing through this elemental area is simply denoted as d phi. Total flux is what? Phi. The regular symbol for flux is phi. So small flux, it can be denoted as what? D phi. So these are regular symbols. Always D stands for differential. So it is simply the small flux is d phi. So for example, you have a length, again just coming to the rough column again, you have some length L. A small length is denoted as dl. So d actually denotes differential. So exactly speaking, differential means change in length. So dl actually really stands for change in length. But a change in length is a small change in length. It's also length only. So length is changing by 5 meters means that's also another length, a length added or subtracted. So dl stands for both a small value of length and also change in length. Both are one and same in many. So exactly many real simple situations, certain derivations, really the sameness can be seen. So dl stands for a change in length and also it stands for a small value of that length or that particular quantity. So now considering this small flux passing through this small elemental area. Now what is the total flux now emerging out of the closed surface? The sum of all these small fluxes. The sum of all these small fluxes is written as sigma d phi. Sigma d phi. So left hand side, just observe here, the total flux can also be written as what? Sigma d phi. So I'll just write here sigma d phi. Left hand side, I have to write sigma here, but I'll not write sigma. The reason is when the flux is an ordinary value, say it's not small, it's not differential, it's some flux delta phi or phi 1 or phi 2 or phi 3. The sum of all these ordinary values is denoted as sigma, but sum of all differential values is denoted as integral. It is denoted as integral. So integral d phi it's called. So that's the, this actually is the first step of defining integral. Always the most powerful things in science and technology or science and engineering are definitions. What's the definition of integral? Try to check. This will be a part of the first part of the definition. So always sum is denoted as sigma, but that's ordinary for ordinary values. So phi 1 plus phi 2 plus phi 3, their sum is denoted as sigma. But the sum of differentials, tiny extremely small quantities, denoted as integral. So the total flux is written as sum of all the fluxes considered for what surface? Considered for the entire closed surface. That's why this is called as integral d phi for the surface S. So that is equal to what? Right hand side we got q inside, the total charge inside, divided by epsilon naught. That way it can be done. But now from the second definition of flux. So what is the second definition of flux? Already we have seen this in the previous topics. So it's also that topic, try to remember, that's also called as second definition of electric field vector or electric field intensity. Now using that second definition of electric flux, the electric small elemental flux passing through a small elemental area, it is related to the electric field vector by the simple equation. It's the dot product of electric field vector and the elemental area vector. So this elemental area ds is treated as a vector. The reason why the elemental area is treated as a vector, that also we have seen in that same topic. Now this topic is actually, it comes just before, it has come just before Gauss law, which is the second definition of electric flux and the second definition of electric field. So this is a very important topic on which the entire Gauss law is actually based upon. So using this, just check this, any doubt is there, you just check that once again, that check the class related to this. A very simple topic, second definition of electric flux and second definition of electric field. So using this simple thing here, the flux passing through any elemental area is given by this equation, which is actually related to that elemental area vector ds. So it's, what is the meaning of E bar dot ds bar? It's just nothing but dot product of two vectors. A bar dot b bar is what? AB cos theta. Like that, E bar dot ds bar can be written as EDS cos theta. So this is a very simple equation. Now substitute this equation here, then what happens is the equation will become simply integral considered for the closed surface S, E bar dot ds bar is equal to q inside divided by epsilon naught. Now the important thing is this integral is actually related to the closed surface. The surface denoted as S, and very important thing is this is not an open surface. For example, you have a surface like this, for example like this, see here, it is called as an open surface because these two ends are not joining. So if this end comes and joins here, then we have a closed surface or a closed loop. If it's a two-dimensional curve, it's said to be a loop, but it's three-dimensional surface, so it's called as closed surface. So because it's a closed surface, here a small circle is actually, so it is very simple. So because it's a closed surface, here a small circle is actually drawn. So this represents that it's a closed surface, considered for a closed surface. So that is what we are getting. So this is taken as the final form of the Gauss law. So it's not just implies, therefore we have to put here. So therefore from the previous step we are getting this, and this is the final form of the Gauss law. So this can be called as the second result. So first result, very simple, is the equation 1. So I'll just call it as result. Result means results, we call it as, you denote by using Roman letters. So 1, 2, 3, they are called as Indian numbers because Arabs have taken the mathematics from India. It's also called as Indo-Arabic numbers. They are also called as Indo-Arabic numbers. Even Roman numbers are also not much different. They were also actually taken from India only, but still long back, very long back they were taken. So they did not develop much, but Indian numbers have developed very much. They are not just shown by one line, two lines, or three lines like that. They are very advanced. Even now, the entire modern mathematics is based on Indian numbers only. So that's the thing here, the statement of the Gauss law, very simple. So what is the meaning here? E bar dot ds bar, remember that it's a small flux. Integral means sum. Sum of all the small flux is nothing but total flux. So total flux is nothing but total charge inside divided by epsilon naught, which is simply nothing but total flux is proportional to the total charge inside. So this is the simple form of the Gauss law. So now coming here, the statement is very simple. The statement of the Gauss law, it's nothing but just simple proportionality relation. So very easily it can be written, just in 3 lines it will be coming. So while I'll just give some time for writing the running, so during that it can be written. But before that, we'll just see here. Now consider the total charge inside the closed surface to be positive. Then what is happening is the electric flux is emerging out of the closed surface. Now just see here. In this, you can just see one small thing. Charge is inside is positive, flux is emerging out. Then left hand side is what? Really flux. So positive charge, flux is taken as positive. That means The flux which is emerging out of the closed surface is taken as positive flux. So fluxes, just like charges are of two types, now we have two types of electric fluxes. The flux which is emerging out of the closed surface is positive, and what about if it's a negative charge? So whatever things we are seeing here are simple. So nowhere any complication is there. So So now the same way, if we are taking a negative charge to be present inside, then the electric flux or lines of force will be converging towards the negative charge. That means the electric flux is actually earlier positive charge electric flux is emerging outside. So negative charge means electric flux is going into the closed surface. It's actually going emerging. It's not emerging out but entering inside the closed surface. So if it is a negative charge, the automatically from this equation negative charge automatically means that the electric flux is actually directed into the closed surface. It's going into the closed surface. So that way it can be taken. So for a positive charge, the electric flux is emerging out, and such an electric flux which is emerging out of the closed surface is taken to be positive flux, and any electric flux which is entering into the closed surface is taken as negative flux. So that way two types of electric flux can be considered. Now the important thing is, what if charge is taken to be outside the closed surface? How much flux will be actually passing through the closed surface? Now if you're taking a charge somewhere located here, the flux through the closed surface will be simply zero. What is the reason for this? It does not count here actually. So if you're taking a charge located somewhere here at this particular position, say a positive charge, say, or a negative charge, it doesn't matter. Supposing it's a positive charge, so you take 10 lines of force which are really directed towards the closed surface. Then these 10 lines of force, that means one line of force can be taken as 1 unit flux for convenience. So 10 lines of force are actually we are drawing through the closed surface, and these 10 lines of force, they're actually entering the closed surface. Once they are entering the closed surface, they'll be emerging out from the other side. So and entering, the flux can be taken as minus 10 units. When emerging out, it's plus 10 units. What is the actual flux now? Total flux through the closed surface, it is coming to be zero. That means charges which are located outside, their flux through the closed surface will be simply coming as zero. So what flux actually really counts here in the Gauss law? Only the flux related to the charges inside the closed surface. That is very, 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 very important thing, observation that can be seen from the diagram. So now consider the meaning of E here. The meaning of E already we know. Electric field is always created by a charge. Now this electric field which you are considering, what is E here? E is the electric field in this particular small elemental. Elemental area means, strictly speaking, differential means something infinitesimal. So its area is actually so small. So small means considered as a point, exactly speaking as a point. That way, only for convenience, I'm just showing this to be a small considerable area. But strictly speaking, mathematically, exactly speaking, by definition, elemental area means almost like a point area. It's not exactly zero, but the closest thing to zero. So E is really the electric field at this particular elemental area created. This electric field is produced by what? The total charge inside. The total charge inside. Now, but here, if we consider an outside charge, now consider an outside charge for convenience. Now, if you consider an outside charge, what happens is this outside charge also will produce an electric field here. Inside charge is also producing electric field. Inside charge electric field you call it as Z1. The outside charge electric field at the same point you call it as Z2. The resultant of these two electric fields, electric field due to the inside charge, which is really something related to the Gauss law, which is really present in the Gauss law. But what if we take outside charge electric field here at this point? We should not take, strictly speaking, we should not take, because we did not see that in the derivation. Always any question comes, what will help us? Only scientific derivation will be helping us. Scientific derivation is based on very simple definitions. They are simply scientific definition. Scientific definition is not something complicated. It is the simplest meaning of some concept or some quantity or some process in the simplest possible words given by a scientist. There is nothing more simpler than that. That way it has been time tested by time and given to us by the original scientists. Almost from that particular original definition, even now that is the simplest possible, so it can't be improved upon. It will not be, if the words are not changed, its meaning also will not be getting reduced. So from the original time, we have been following the same day, starting. So a simple example is Newton's second law. So in some textbooks, Newton's second law is actually given differently. That's actually not proper. In the original form, whatever it was given, in that form only, it's better to follow. So so always a scientific derivation, each and every step is based on very, very simple definitions. So this is actually, see, the first step itself, it is based on the definition of electric flux. And next, last step you see, E bar dot ds bar. This is really the second definition of electric flux again. Here, each and every step at the scientific definition is actually a scientific definition or a scientific law is actually involved. So each and every step has its own meaning, very simple meaning based on very simple definitions and very simple laws. So any doubt comes, these steps only will be helpful. So that's why I said many times, problems are nothing compared to a scientific derivation. The scientific derivation is like the universe, almost like the universe. Problems are just like buildings, artificial buildings made by human beings. They are nothing, not even points compared to the universe. So, so this is the thing, very simple equation which we got. So in this, E is the electric field due to created by what, produced by what? The total charge inside. What if we take a charge outside? Then also the equation, this equation, Gauss law equation, will be still applicable. What is the reason for this? Now this field, now it will be resultant of field due to the inside charge E1 and the field due to the outside charge. So if field due to the inside charge E1, so E, if it is taken as E1 plus E2, then we'll have two terms. E1 plus E2 ds is nothing but E1 ds plus E2 ds. But what is E1 ds? E1 ds is the nothing but, E1 is the field due to the inside charge, it's nothing but the flux due to the inside charge. And what about the second term, E2 ds? E2 ds, that also will be having integral. So I'm not writing the steps to save time. So, but this is a very, very important point. Just if you have any doubt, just rewind for only 1 minute, because once a video you are listening, second time you should not listen to that. You have to note down each and every point. Just one or two points will be there, not more than that. You have to note down. Most of the points I'm writing in the running notes itself. So what about the second term, E2 ds? E2 is the field at the same point due to the outside charge. And that E2 ds is nothing but the total flux due to the outside charge. Anyhow, we have already seen that exactly. It is zero. The flux due to the outside charge is exactly zero. So that term will vanish. So due to this reason, electric field here, it's not just the electric field. We not take, exactly speaking, by original derivation, it's the electric field due to the inside charge. But it can also be taken as the electric field due to both, or the total electric field at this elemental area due to both inside and outside charges. The reason is outside charges electric field, anyhow it will get cancelled in the calculation of the flux. But why it is so important? In Gauss law, compulsorily this electric field is not just taken as the field due to the inside charges, but field due to both inside and outside charges. Outside, how many charges are there? Infinite number of charges can be there. In many, many situations, very, very useful charges will be there outside, really, in many, many situations. So that field here is always taken to be the field due to the inside and outside charges. The reason is Gauss law will be becoming practically useless if only inside field due to the inside charges are taken, because the field due to inside charges always it will be non-uniform. Just see here, we know that close to the charge, how will be the field? It will be very strong. Far away it will be very weak. But if we take a charge distribution, for example, you have infinite distribution of charge, like a plane sheet of charge, field will be uniform, very, very uniform. So such uniform fields, not just uniform fields, symmetric fields also. Symmetric fields means the field will looking identical on both sides of a line, or both sides of a point, on both either side of a single point, or if you have some single line here, something like this, on both sides, this side and this side, field will looking identical. That's called symmetricity. In such cases of uniform fields and symmetric fields, this meaning, second meaning of electric field will be very, very useful, because then in such a case, if the electric field due to, if the entire infinite distribution of charge is considered, if the electric field happens to be uniform, the integral will be very easy to calculate. It's very easy, very easily the integral can be evaluated. Evaluated means it can be solved, it can be, its answer can be obtained. Once this is obtained, a very simple result between any unknown quantity, supposing the electric field happens to be uniform and still it is unknown, we'll be getting a very simple relation. So that way, practically, Gauss law is found to be more useful if the electric field here is considered to be both due to the inside charges as well as outside charges. So that is taken as the final meaning of the Gauss law. So this is very, very simple but very, very important. So where E bar is what? Is the resultant field field due to both inside charges as well as outside charges. Outside charges. So inside and outside charges are nothing but related to the with respect to the surface. So in brackets it can be written more clearly with respect to surface, yes. That means closed surface, yes. So that's the final meaning of the Gauss law. So entire Gauss law is very simple, but still see here we did not see the derivation. Now what about the derivation? Now derivation is not complicated. So derivation is, I'll just give a small hint. So those who are interested, you can try the derivation. It actually starts with the electric flux second definition. Derivation actually for Gauss law starts with this. So we have to get a relation between total flux. So firstly, flux through the elemental area is considered. D phi is equal to E bar dot ds bar. So E bar dot ds bar will be EDS cos theta. And what is E here? E is due to a charge. Now first you take a point charge. You take a point charge. Now near a point charge, what is the electric field? Electric field is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. Like that, charge distribution also can be taken. Charge distribution means many point charges should be taken. Doesn't matter. Many point charges means the electric field will be the vector sum of all the electric field due to all the point charges. So perfectly, any kind of situation, general proof can be obtained in just 2 steps or 3 steps. Now, the most important thing in science and technology, especially physics and technology or physics and engineering, is however big a proof is, it's entirely based on only one or two main steps. One or two main steps. The first main step here is this one, the Gauss law derivation, actually based on Coulomb's inverse square law. And the second main step is directly electric field due to point charge. What is the electric field due to point charge? I'm just giving a hint here. So I don't want to write here because the page will get disturbed. What is the electric field due to point charge, isolated charge? 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square. That is what? That's actually derived from Coulomb's inverse square law. So immediately that is substituted here, E ds cos theta. So it will become ds cos theta by r square. Ds cos theta really is nothing but, supposing we are taking any general area here. So here we got the area, elemental area to be roughly perpendicular to the electric field. Even if it is not perpendicular also, ds cos theta will be the perpendicular component of the elemental area. So I'm just giving you a rough idea. So I'm using very fast words because I don't want to give any time for thinking now. So you try on your own this proof. Eds cos theta, it will be E is what? 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 plus naught q by r square. So it will be ds cos theta by r square. It's ds perpendicular by r square. Ds perpendicular by r square. Ds perpendicular is nothing but perpendicular component of area r square. So ds perpendicular by r square. Just observe the cursor compulsory. Ds perpendicular by r square is nothing but the solid angle. So when we are taking the integral, what happens is sum of all the elemental solid angles will be the total solid angle. Total solid angle is 4 pi steradians. Just like total plane angle is what? 2 pi radians. Total solid angle is 4 pi steradians. That way 4 pi comes into this particular equation. And that what happens is numerator 4 pi, denominator 4 pi will get cancelled. And directly it will come as q inside by epsilon naught. So the proof will be really, I have explained in just 4 minutes or around 4 minutes. So when you derive this in just 2 main steps, simplification it will take another 1 or 2 steps, but still it will come very easily. So that's the real derivation of the Gauss law. Those who are interested, you can just try it. So don't think that derivations are complicated. All derivations in any branch of engineering, any branch of physics, they are very simple because they are based on only 1 or 2 very simple laws or 1 or 2 very simple steps. All the other remaining steps will be only simplification steps. There won't be any complication in them at all. So that's the thing about the Gauss law. Now, what about the running notes? Running notes, just a statement of the Gauss law should be written here. Now, just see the statement of the Gauss law. Now, quickly complete the running notes. Now, diagram also, I'm just making it as simple as possible. I'm doing all the extra things outside charge. So, any doubt comes, this diagram only is the real scientific diagram, which is very simple line diagram. this diagram only will be helping, whatever be the complication of the question. So now quickly complete the running notes in just 2 minutes. It can be completed. There won't be any change at all. Only the statement will be coming. After that explanation, just 1 or 2 lines will be there, and remaining steps will be as it is. So compulsory take the rough column also. So here the rough column doesn't have many equations, but you always rough column is always very important. So just see the statement of the Gauss law. Statement is very simple. The total. So you have to write the running notes as I am giving the statement at the same time. The total electric flux. Don't think that I'll write later. I'll take the snapshot because I'm writing very fast, close letters. Later, it may not be possible to understand this. So, as I'm saying it, then only you write it. Notes should not be taken separately because it's time waste. If you write now, because the important thing of notes is the actual scientific derivation should be followed. Every step should be based on a definition. That only is proper. So at the same time, you should complete your notes, and in the board exam, what you are going to write in the exam, that you should be completing it. That you should be deciding it now itself. Later you should not be thinking about it. Later you should be going into different kinds of problems, and very important, even more than problems, is different kinds of doubts you might be getting in a derivation. Those doubts also we should be at least spending time. So such doubts, they require a lot of time. Problems are very simple, they can be obtained quickly. Such doubts related to derivation, they'll be very taking a lot of time, but at least some time you should be able to spend. At least even 10 minutes per day is also very good in trying to answer such questions. So the total electric flux through a, now the meaning of through is very clear. Through means both entering as well as leaving the closed surface. That's the most perfect meaning of flux. So initially we have taken only emerging out. That's only simple case. The total electric flux, this is a more general meaning. The total electric flux exact meaning we have seen. Through means both entering as well as leaving. The total electric flux through a closed surface is directly proportional to the total charge. So actually see here, the words are actually very simple. So diagram, actually it's taking some space. Actually the statement and diagram should not be mixed, so I'm just separating the diagram. So this is a real diagram, so I'll just call it as figure 1. It's not a rough diagram. You have to draw the diagram compulsorily because its entire explanation is based on this diagram. So I'm just separating it from the statement so that the statement will not get mixed up, the words will not get mixed up with the lines of the diagram. So the total electric flux through a closed surface is directly proportional to the total charge inside the closed surface. So this is the statement. So next explanation directly from Gauss law. So that means from the statement of the Gauss law we are getting this equation, this relation. So from Gauss law, phi total is proportional to Q inside. So next all the steps as it is. So there is no change at all. As it is, they can be taken. Now here, so what is this? This is nothing but second definition. So I'm not writing second and first because many textbooks don't follow different definitions. They give just one definition. This is taken as the definition, but that's not proper. The first definition was given by certain scientists actually who really believed that lines of force really exist. They never considered them to be imaginary because everything is explained with the help of lines of force. They were actually very real. So first definition is always the simplest and most powerful definition for all quantities. So this is the second definition. So I'm not writing second, but remember that definition of electric flux. There's no place here. I'm just writing definition of flux. So from this, so that's all. After that, this. So this is the completion of the Gauss law as it is, it can be taken. So after that, applications of Gauss law will be coming. They are also very simple. Now there we can really see the importance of this electric field, which is actually considered to be the field due to both inside as well as outside charges. So left hand side E is what? It's the field due to both inside and outside. But right hand side compulsorily is what? Only inside field. No outside. That is right hand side is what? Only inside charge. It's not field. Only inside charge. Because outside charges can't be considered, because outside charges flux due to the through the surface will be zero. Already we have seen that from the diagram at the beginning of the topic we have seen. So that's the derivation. So very simple derivation. Now quickly within 2 minutes running notes can be completed. So first complete the running notes and then attend the next topic class.